What if I told you the most powerful currency on Earth isn't backed by gold, isn't backed by resources, and isn't even backed by the country that issues it? At least not in the way you think. What if the US dollar, the currency that decides the fate of nations, the fuel of global trade, the backbone of world savings, is actually an illusion? Not a scam, not fake, but an illusion so deeply engineered, so perfectly timed, that it quietly rewired the world's entire financial system. Today we're pulling apart the illusion, where it began, how it grew, when it cracked, and why the world still can't escape it. And by the end of this video you might realize, the dollar didn't become powerful because the US was strong. The US became strong because the dollar became powerful. To understand how the dollar became the world's greatest financial trick, we need to go back to a time when the US wasn't a superpower, and the dollar wasn't even considered stable. In the early 20th century, the global king of money wasn't America, it was Britain. The British pound ruled world trade for more than a century. Gold-backed, trusted, safe. But history was about to take a sharp turn. 2 world wars drained Europe's wealth. Britain collapsed under debt. And the United States, untouched by bombs, rich in manufacturing, and sitting on massive gold reserves, stepped in. This is where the illusion begins. Because from this moment forward, the world didn't just need America's gold. It needed America's promise. A promise that would later be broken, and yet still trusted. The Bretton Woods Agreement, 1944. In 1944, world leaders gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to rebuild global finance. This meeting created a new world order. It declared, the US dollar will be the anchor of the global system. Every currency will be tied to the dollar, and the dollar will be tied to gold at $35 per ounce. This made the dollar as good as gold, but also gave America a hidden advantage no one fully understood yet. Countries needed dollars to trade. To get dollars, they had to sell goods to America. America became the world's biggest buyer and the world's biggest influencer. This wasn't just a financial arrangement. It was a silent power shift. The dollar's power grew not because of what it was, but because of what the world needed. Europe needed dollars to rebuild. Asia needed dollars to industrialize. Oil-producing nations needed dollars to sell energy. And America? It could now print the very currency the world needed to survive. The illusion strengthened. But every illusion has a breaking point. And for the dollar, that breaking point arrived on August 15, 1971. The Nixon Shock. By the late 1960s, the US was overspending wars, welfare, expansion. It printed more dollars than it had gold to back. Other nations noticed. They asked for gold in exchange for their dollars, exactly what the Bretton Woods system allowed. And suddenly, the US didn't have enough gold to give. So, in 1971, President Richard Nixon made a shocking announcement. The dollar would no longer be backed by gold. The entire global financial structure instantly collapsed. Or at least, it should have. But here's the mystery. The dollar didn't die. It became even stronger. The illusion survived and evolved. The petrodollar system. Without gold, the dollar needed a new foundation. A new backing. Something the world couldn't live without. And that something was oil. In 1974, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia. Every barrel of oil would be priced in US dollars, no matter who bought it. In return, the US would protect Saudi Arabia militarily. This deal quietly transformed global finance. Every country needed oil. Oil needed dollars. Therefore, every country needed dollars. This single agreement turned the dollar into the world's lifeline, even though it had no gold behind it. That is the illusion. A currency backed not by gold, but by global necessity. The world now ran on a currency that could be printed at will. The US gained enormous privileges. 1. It could borrow endlessly. Because the world desperately needed dollars, America could print more without immediate consequences. 2. Its debt became other countries' problem. Nations held US bonds as safe assets, even as America racked up trillions. 3. The US military spread worldwide. Strong dollar equals strong military. Strong military equals strong dollar. Perfect feedback loop. But this illusion also created victims. Hyperinflation hit developing nations that depended on the dollar. Debt crises exploded across Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Countries spent decades trying to escape dollar dependency and failed. Many nations tried to fight the illusion. Europe created the euro. China pushed for a petro-yuan. Russia built its own payment networks. BRICS formed alliances to bypass the dollar. Yet the world keeps coming back to the same currency. Why? Because whether you're buying oil in Saudi Arabia, electronics in China, metals in Africa, or ships in Europe, the easiest, safest, most liquid currency is still the dollar. It has become the world's default setting. The world can't trust the US fully, but it trusts global chaos even less. And that is the ultimate illusion. The dollar wins not because it's perfect, but because every alternative is worse. Today, the illusion is stronger than ever, and shakier than ever. Look at this. Nearly 60% of all global foreign reserves are held in dollars. Over 80% of all global trade uses the dollar in some way. More than 90 countries have experienced currency collapse partly due to dollar dependency. The US prints trillions, yet the world still buys its debt. And here's the twist. The more America prints, the more the world needs dollars to protect themselves from inflation and debt crises. A self-reinforcing cycle. But illusions rarely last forever. For the first time in decades, major nations are forming alliances to ditch the dollar. Oil deals are being signed in non-dollar currencies. Gold buying by central banks has hit a record high. The U.S. national debt is exploding past $35 trillion. Trust in American leadership is fading internationally. The illusion is trembling, but the world still depends on it. We are living through a financial paradox. Everyone wants to escape the dollar, but no one can afford to. 1. The dollar's power is artificial but extremely effective. It's not backed by gold. It's backed by global dependence. 2. The U.S. uses this system strategically. Through military alliances, global trade, and financial institutions, America ensures the world keeps needing dollars. 3. The illusion will break, but slowly. No single event will collapse the dollar. It will fade gradually as alternatives rise. Unless the U.S. finds a new trick. The world is entering a new monetary era. Digital currencies, shifting alliances, uncertain geopolitics. And when global trust finally shifts, the most powerful illusion in human history may begin to crack. Quietly, then suddenly. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit the like button so more people can discover it. Subscribe for deep, long-form financial storytelling every week. And let me know in the comments, do you think the dollar's illusion will survive the next decade? Stay curious, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.